Weird Side. Welcome. Hello. Yes. Yeah. See, I need to start that intro. Anyway, so welcome back to another wonderful interview. Last week we managed to escape the interview with the escape room from Escape This podcast, and my Adam Hills podcast, all about Spicks and Specks, is coming. Don't you fret a tear. But today we got a very special guest. If you were if you're young enough to remember the program, Sorry I Got No Head. If you don't, it's on the iPlayer, I think, still. I might not know. I think it is. I rewatched it. It's a fantastic program, and my guest today is best known for Sorry I Got No Head. It's the one, it's the only Fergus Drake.
Hello, Tom.
Hello. So let's go straight into it. Let's hit the nail on the head and begin. How did you get into comedy?
Comedy. I wanted to be an actor. School plays, all of that. Always liked performing. Always liked comedy, but didn't think you would. If you met me when I was 15, I wouldn't say I wanted to be a comedian, but I always liked comedy and being funny. But I went to drama school in Manchester to try and become a proper serious actor, but ended up doing some comedy with my friends when I was in Manchester, at Manchester Metropolitan University it was, and moved down to London. Once I got an agent, I moved down to London and did a bit of, I was in the Royal Shakespeare Company for a while, but ended up doing some open mic stand-up. Just always, it was like an itch, do you know what I mean? I always thought I'd end up, it felt like I was heading towards comedy. And then my friend Colin Holt, who is a very funny man, moved down to London and we started doing a double act together on the scene in London. And then before long, all the work I got was to do with comedy. So that was it. It was sort of made, the decision was made for me by, that was where I got my work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as a wee child, a wee nipper, shall we say, what TV shows like inspired you to want to be an actor?
I did watch a lot of TV. I suppose when I think about it as a child, most of the things I liked were comedy. So I'm a lot older than you. So things like Faulty Towers and Blackadder and things like, and there was a kids' TV show when I was a kid called Maid Marian and Her Merry Men, which was I found very funny, and I liked that a lot when I was a kid. And then when I was a teenager, it would have been things like, see, I'm just naming comedy really, but it would have been things like, do you know Chris Morris? Does your generation know Chris Morris?
Yes, well, I do. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah. So he did things like The Day to Day and Brass Eye, and I was really into that, and Alan Partridge and Reeves and Mortimer, and yeah, I'm just naming comedy, but yeah, that was all the stuff that really got me excited. Yeah.
Well, it's no wonder you've ended up where you are now, because that's what's really interesting, is that you don't think about these things until later on in life, and you realize, oh, it all stemmed from when you were younger. And comedy is one of those things where it's like universal, and no matter which generation, every comedy would be funny. Well, it depends on who you talk to, really. But when you ended up becoming a world-renowned comedy actor, how did you end up getting involved in Sorry I've Got No Head, which never has any heads being chopped off?
I love being described as world-renowned, and that was interesting you say that's what I'm best known for, because you know, it's that I don't really think about Sorry I've Got No Head that much, because I don't know, I guess it's for a specific generation. I guess if you were 10 or whatever when that came out, then I guess that show was quite a big deal. It was really fun to do. I wasn't in the first series of that, but I can't remember, for whatever reason, the producer got in touch and asked me to be in the second series. And I already knew lots of the people in the show because, you know, there was a sort of sketch comedy circuit in London around that time. So I knew Justin Edwards and Anna Crilly and Marek Larwood, Nick Mohammed, and lots of the people in the cast already. So it was a lot of fun to do because it was just messing around with friends and wearing a lot of silly wigs and silly clothes, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a very funny program. And then when they put it back on the iPlayer, I think like last year, it's when you rewatch it, you still get the same feeling as you did before, and it's still funny, and I still remember it to this day. And you talk to people about it, and no one has no idea what I'm on about when I mention blueberries and then make a farting noise. No one has no clue what I'm on about, but I still do, and it still makes me laugh, even though I'm 17 and I shouldn't be laughing at fart jokes. It's still.
Well, that's exactly the right time to be laughing at fart jokes. Never stop laughing at fart jokes.
Yep,
I don't think there's any funnier joke than a fart joke, really.
And then you also end up doing the program Pixel Face. Was that a sort of spin-off from Sorry I've Got No Head? Because it sort of felt like a spin-off to me.
Oh, it definitely was. I think there was a sketch. I only did one episode of that, I think. There was a sketch on, if I remember rightly, you might know better than me. There was a sketch on Sorry I've Got No Head that was set in a computer game. It was sort of the characters in the computer game, right?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and I think the people, I can't remember who wrote that sketch, but the people who wrote those sketches suggested that it could be its own sitcom. That one was Will Andrews and Anna Crilly and David Armand, if I remember rightly, with the regulars in that. Maybe I'm missing someone else out. But David Armand, who I don't know if he's the one, I don't know if you know everyone's names, but he's the one you might remember from Sorry I've Got No Head. He was the one who always did she's a witch, that he I don't remember what he was dressed up as, but in Pixel Face he had a costume that was really, really uncomfortable. It was really huge and and they filmed it one hot summer, and he was just miserable because it was just so hot. And I think he hated that so much that he ended up leaving acting. He's a lawyer now, I think. But yeah, that costume was so uncomfortable that he left the profession entirely.
Wow. But Pixel Face, sadly, is the only bit of media that might be lost to time because it's normal. Because when you YouTube it, there isn't any YouTube videos of the episode, which is quite sad. So if the BBC are watching, hopefully you are, please put it on the iPlayer because I would love to rewatch it, or put it on DVD. Up to you. Whichever one makes me happier.
Yeah.
That would work well. And then you've also worked with some Oscar-winning actors. Olivia Colman. You worked with Olivia Colman on the radio, on a radio sitcom. What was it like working with Olivia Colman now that she's mega famous?
Amazing. I mean, she was already famous, but she wasn't quite an Oscar-nominated actress at that stage. No, she was great. That was. She's just very lovely. She's exactly how you sort of expect her to be. She's just a very, very lovely, friendly, bubbly person. In my experience.
Yeah, and then
maybe she's got a darker side. maybe, but I haven't experienced it.
You probably have to live with us to find that out.
Yes.
Yeah. Now in 2021, the world got to experience a pilot to a sitcom that I hope it gets commissioned for a full series. But knowing the track record of pilots on the BBC, and if I love it, they end up not doing it. But hopefully, more people love it, not just me. But what with it? How did you come up with Martin Fishback? How did that come about?
Martin Fishback, that's still on iPlayer. Get that watched. I started making videos on Twitter. I saw some people were making videos on Twitter, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll have a go at that myself. And I had the idea for a video in which a sort of middle-class dad said his son was having in his first week at university, and you would send him a video message giving him advice on starting out at university. So I made one video just straight at home, straight to camera, and that one did all right on Twitter, and I thought, oh, that's all right. So then I just kept on doing that character on Twitter, and he didn't have a name at that stage. He was just sort of called Dad, and it just gradually built an audience. And I thought, well, there might be a sitcom in this. And I worked with my friend Paul Doolan, who's a comedy writer with a production company, and we worked on a script eventually. We got commissioned to write a script. And within a couple of years, which is actually fairly quick in TV, we had a show. Yeah.
And
That's a good description. Did I describe that well?
Yeah.
Quite boring. Carry on. Sorry.
And I hope that it becomes a full series. But but in the meantime, if you want to know more about Martin Fishback, or as well as rewatching the pilot millions of times, you could also download the audio book and the physical book.
Tom.
If I'm prepared with my plugs for the wonderful book Once Upon a Crime. Now, what was the inspiration to write a book?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for getting that. Well, as I say, I had this dad character called Martin Fishback, and I just had the idea. I just thought it was funny one day to say that he'd given up his job or something to become a crime writer. And then another day I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll write an extract of his crime novel, because that would be awful and funny. And then that extract went quite well. People liked it. So then I just kept on writing more extracts, and before you knew it, I had the novel. But yeah, the idea is it's set in Exeter, and he has a character called Detective Roger Le Carre, who's his sort of protagonist, his hero, who's a gritty copper on the streets of Exeter. But I guess what I'm doing is trying to making out that Exeter is like a tough American crime-ridden city, but it's just Exeter and Devon. I guess that's the joke at the core of it.
Yeah. And then what was it like recording the audiobook? Because you didn't record the audiobook as yourself, you recorded it as Martin Fishback himself.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's quite hard to record an audiobook because you've got to read a whole book. It takes quite a long time. A lot of fun to do. Because if I'm honest, I found it quite funny. I think probably if anyone else finds the book funny, I probably find it funnier.
Yeah.
It's my sense of humor. So I found it very enjoyable to do, but it is quite hard reading a whole book. I don't know how people do audiobooks for like huge books. Yeah.
Well, I think the person to ask about that is Stephen Fry, because he read the Harry Potter books and they're quite big.
Of course. Yeah, that must be quite a tough thing to do. Yeah.
And I quite from the and what from the bits I've heard and read, well, heard because I don't really read audiobooks, but from the bits I've heard so far, it's very funny. It's well worth the pick up. I recommend you get in the hardback, so it looks better, and you keep it nice and neat for a lot longer than paperback, because paperback can fold easily, and you don't want that.
Not actually available in paperback, but yeah,
it's available in all formats
except paperback. Yeah.
And you can't download it into your brain either.
No, although soon that'll be. Someone will be doing that, won't they?
Yeah. And so with your many career movements and other things, I don't know why I said the word movements. You also got to feature in a popular program that's, I would say, more popular in America than Britain.
Okay.
Even though it's made by British people. And
I'm interested to hear what show this is.
Yeah. You were in Gumball, The Amazing World of Gumball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're in a few episodes of that. Was that more enjoyable than working on anything else you've done?
It's very enjoyable to do. I wouldn't put it as the most enjoyable of all, because the thing is, it's a lot of fun, but it's quite quick. Do you know what I mean? So if you do a TV thing, and particularly if you're like one of the main people in it, you do it for a few weeks and you go in every day and you make friends with the other actors and the crew, and it's like having a proper job, but it's fun, you know. So you have like so you get more memories of that. But Gumball, you just sort of go into town and you go in there and into a recording studio, and it'll be just you and a producer and a technician, and they'll say, can you say these lines please? And you'll say like 3 lines, and then you'll go home. so it's fun, and it's a fun show, but yeah, it's just sort of.
Have you ever watched it back since you recorded your lines?
I've watched the odd episode. Yeah, I haven't watched all of it because obviously, you know, I'm not the target market. But it is a very funny show, and I do have a son, but he's not quite old enough to watch Gumball. I've got some nephews in America who are big fans of the show.
Wow, because it's very popular in America now. Now that we've learned a few things you've been in and a little bit of history, now it's the age-old question you always ask someone that's been on the telly with their face glued to the box. Do you like watching yourself back or not?
Now the cool thing to say is no, I never watch myself. But I do watch myself. So it's a sort of, I don't want to say love-hate, but if it's something that I think's funny, then yes, if I'm absolutely honest, I do enjoy watching it back. But at the same time, I usually sort of think my face looks too fat. So I think about that. So there's always like a moment of like, oh, I don't like the way I look there. Or I wish I hadn't. You get self-conscious, right? I always think I shouldn't tell you this because now people will look for it. I always think I blink quite a lot when I'm acting, and I get like self-conscious about things like that. But I do watch myself back, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be fun because it's like you've been watching TV for years and then you're in the program, and that would be fun, unless you realise you said something and that you really shouldn't have said, and then you regret it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, luckily for me, with most of the things that I've done on TV, somebody else wrote down stuff and I said what they told me to say. So it's more on things like this where there's the mistake that there's the fear that I might say something stupid.
And now we're going to go into more in depth was stepping away from the limelight, going into the writer's room to ask if there's anyone out there watching this right now who might be the next. No, I can't think of any famous sitcom writers at the moment. The next.
Fergus Craig.
Yeah. Or on the next Del Boy. John Sullivan. That's it. The next John Sullivan. What advice would you give them on writing a sitcom?
Good question. It's very hard, and it takes more work than you would think. I would say, in terms of writing comedy in general, I would say, especially when you're starting out, always start from the base point of what you find funny. I would say, don't, you can't really control whether other people will find it funny. But if you're trying to write comedy that you don't personally find funny, but you think other people might find funny, I think that's sort of like a fool's errand. I think it's a misguided path to go down. I'd say always start from the standpoint that you want to aim to make something that you personally would find funny. In terms of sitcoms, it took me a long time to get my head around this, but you do have to work on plot a lot. You have to crack that. So very simple things would be, your characters always have to have things that they want. They always have to have goals. Even if it's something very simple, like they want to eat some cake or whatever. They've always got to have things that they're aiming for, so that the audience can relate to that and see why they're doing things. And I always say something that it took me years to work out myself. Someone pointed out to me, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who write South Park. One of the things that they say is that when you're putting together the scenes, each thing that happens in a sitcom, you can't just have so-and-so does this, and then they do this, and then they do this, and then they do this, because that's not really a story. But if you have the scenes go, so-and-so does this, and then the next scene is therefore this, or but this. Do you know what I mean? Like, so-and-so gets a job as a lifeguard, and then they arrive at the swimming pool, but they remember that they can't swim. Rather than just they get a job as a lifeguard and then they go to the swimming pool, and then a tiger walks in, and then do you mean if there's got to be see what I mean?
There'll be a bloodbath at the end of that with the tiger.
Yes, it would be, yeah.
And then going on from that to, how would you write, without dropping it, how would you write a comedy book? If you've got any advice.
Well, I'm still finding my way through that myself. I would say, again, you have to have some kind of plot, so otherwise it's just a joke book. I mean, that was a novel, right? I suppose you could write a joke book. There's nothing wrong with joke books. I love this, Tom. This is good plugging. But you'd have to have a story. But you can write it any way you like, I suppose. But I aimed for a joke about every 2 sentences. I was quite itchy. I want to have a lot of jokes in it. So that's what I went for. But I also felt that it needed to have a story. Kept people interested.
Well, I'll say it again, just if anyone's tuning in a little bit late and they've walked in the room and heard someone listening to it. Once Upon a Crime, fantastic book. I would recommend you get it from Amazon or wherever you get your books from, and it's on Audible or wherever else you buy audiobooks from. If you want to listen to the audiobooks, there we go. Now, when I was a young child, which I don't remember the age, you were on TV quite a lot, because there was a lot of episodes. Sorry, I got my head. But you were also in a program that not many people remember, but I remember. But I never realised that you were the voice of the animated robot thing, which is the Revolting World of Stanley Brown.
All right.
That was a fantastic program. Episodes are available on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, why not? One of the actors went on to Game of Thrones, and it was the main actor. Stanley Brown went on to Game of Thrones after that. But what was it like being in that? And did you ever get to come to the set because you were an animated creature? Did you ever meet the cast?
Can I be honest with you? I don't remember anything about that. I think it was just one afternoon. I don't remember what voice I did. I never saw the program.
Wow.
Was I a robot in it?
Yeah, you were a little robot that floated around you like one of the main people in it, like a main robot.
Right. I remember recording it with Izzy Sooty. Do you know Izzy Sooty?
Yes, from Peep Show and many other things.
Yeah, I remember just having a fun afternoon with her recording it. But as far as I know, I think I only did one afternoon on that. So I really don't remember it, Tom. I don't remember what I did on it. Was it a good show?
It was I mean, it was fantastic. It was a program that feels like a fever dream. So,
Right.
So to jog anyone's memory, now that we've worked out where we're at with it, so it's about a boy called Stanley Brown who's really into science, and his future self, his great grandson from the future, flies down to help him become a famous scientist because the future is in trouble. And then there's a little robot that does all the future stuff.
And was I the little robot?
Yeah, well, IMDb says you were, but my problem was that I couldn't remember. I remember the program fondly, but I never remember you being in it. But according to IMDb, you were very much in it.
I was just a voice, you see. I know that. I was just a voice. I definitely did it.
Well, it says I've got it up now. It says Revolting World of Stanley Brown animated voice, which is what it describes you as.
Yeah.
We've had some. You're in a few episodes as various animated voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were in. It was all in 2012, which it seemed like a decade away because it was.
Well, it was a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. You weren't the robot. I thought I read the word robot. That's my fault.
That's all right. I'm just looking at it now on IMDb. Yeah. Me and Izzy did all the voices. So there you go. I don't remember anything about it.
Well, the main child actor from it went on to be in Game of Thrones.
Good for him.
So it must have been a good stepping stone, even though no one remembers it apart from me. It turns out.
Worked out well for him, not me. But good luck to
him. CBC has helped a lot of people get into Game of Thrones because in the program The Worst Witch, the woman who is the worst witch went on to be one of the main characters in Game of Thrones.
There you go. I think I auditioned for Game of Thrones before, like for the first series.
Yeah.
I have a memory of that. I remember thinking, oh, well, this is just rubbish. Probably should have tried harder for that audition.
Yeah. There are a lot of actors and comedians now regret not trying harder for stuff, like John Richardson and Josh Widdicombe both went for Hobbit and they never got it.
I went for The Hobbit as well.
Wow. Which part did you try and go for?
For Bilbo Baggins.
Wow.
I think basically for whatever reason they auditioned pretty much every actor my age in London for that.
Wow.
So yeah, I remember that as well.
Oh, and Billy Connolly was in it. So we still got someone from the British Isles in it. Now with you being this famous person, do you ever walk down to Tesco's and ever get someone yelling a catchphrase or running up to you saying, "Oh, could you sign this?" or "Oh, I remember you"?
No, very rarely. Yeah, I mean, you describe me as a famous person, and that's very kind, but I don't think I am really. And I've been in the business for nearly 20 years, but being recognized out and about has only happened to me a handful of times.
Wow, you should be recognised more now. Possibly after this, you'll be recognised loads more.
Yes, this is my big break. This is what's going to turn it around for me.
This is your Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smaller budget, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now with you having a vast career, out of what you've done so far, not that. So this is from things that you've done that
Yes.
people have seen or is in the public domain, not things that you're working on that haven't been seen. What's your favorite thing you've done so far?
My favorite thing I've done is definitely Martin Fishback, that sitcom pilot, because that was my thing. I think that was not the book. I love, you can put the book down.
No, just promoting Martin Fishback. It was the first thing I had to handle with him.
Yeah, that was very good.
There you go.
Yeah, the book was a lot of fun, but the pilot for Martin Fishback at the moment is my favorite thing I've done, because I created it and I love playing that character, and I was very pleased with the way it came out.
And even the camera can't pick it up. Oh no!
There it is on iPlayer. Martin Fishback. There it is.
You can sort of make it out. It's let's see how. No, it's not going to work anytime soon.
I've had there's been a lot of things that I've enjoyed, but that it's fresh in the memory, and that was a lot of fun. I would love to do more, but
that'll be in the link in the description.
Yeah, but other than that, I did a sitcom called Off the Record with David Hasselhoff.
Yes,
where I played his manager, and that was a lot of fun. It was a very fun job, and a long time ago, 2010, I did a sitcom called Papatron, which not a lot of people watched. It was on like BBC Two lunchtimes, and we just did one series, but it was set in a sort of like youth TV program, and I played the producer. And Joel Dommett was in it, playing one of the presenters.
Oh yeah, he's now.
He would be the one.
Career in
he's the one. Yeah, but that was because it was like an improvised thing. That was a really fun show to do.
And you mentioned there about working with David Hasselhoff. So what was it like working with the Hoffman himself?
Pretty crazy. Yeah. It was fun. He is, he's a big star. So you sort of forget how, I mean, for your generation, maybe not so much, but in the 80s and 90s, he was probably the biggest TV star in the world. So if you went out sometimes when we were filming, if we ever sort of came across the public, you sort of remembered how insanely famous he is. So we'd be filming things. One time we were like sat in like a people carrier doing something, waiting to film something or whatever, and then like some guy just was next to us, was working nearby or whatever, and the windows were open, and he just looked at Hasselhoff and went, "Bewitch, bewitch, I watch in Iraq, bewitch." No, that's not dog with that voice, but that's what he sounded like. So it's just he was an Iraqi guy with not very good English, who wouldn't have known hardly anyone on British TV, but he knew David Hasselhoff. There's no one in the world who doesn't know David Hasselhoff, really. I'm sure there are some, but not many.
Babies won't know who David Hasselhoff is.
That is true.
And so was David, like, obviously David Hasselhoff isn't probably watching this. So what I'm about to ask You can see your honest answer because it won't upset him. Was he a good actor in the comedy sense?
Yes, but he didn't always know why. Maybe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I suppose that's up. I suppose everyone's got their own opinion on that. I would say, let's just say yes.
And do you reckon you'll ever reunite with David Hasselhoff for a anniversary special of the program?
I know he'd be keen. I don't. Fairly big in Germany. But if I'm honest, I think it's probably unlikely.
Mm.
I mean, some of the cast have gone on to be too famous to be dragged back down to earth with that, probably. But yeah.
Now, we're speaking on the line of reunions. I think in 2021, there was a British comedy article out, the best website you could possibly go to in the comedy world, better than Chortle, because it's all just British chortles everywhere. There was an article written about Sorry I Got No Head. Would you, because I heard that Mel Gedroych and the others are you keen to do a reunion episode with the Sorry I Got No Head crew?
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun. I don't know if it would be if it would happen, but I would love to do that. It'd be just lovely to see everyone, genuinely.
And if it ever does happen, I reckon you should do what every children's program does, and Normal Bookman children's program, and have a one-off special, BBC One, 9 p.m, and you could just go mental, because by that point you're aiming a special at the older audience, so the audience that are now in the mid-20s, because it turns out the programs I used to watch were reruns, it must seem, because I'm not 20 and I used to watch Chicken Dumb in the Mungo, and apparently half the audience 20. But
Right.
would you want to redo it if it was more of an adult version of the show?
Yeah, that could be fun. Do some swearing, keep the fart jokes. Yeah, that could be fun. I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
I'd really just like to see everyone again. That would be.
And I feel like with Sorry I Got No Head, it revolutionised the fart era of CBC, because since Sorry I Got No Head finished, we had Class Dismissed, and they had a woman on there that every time she did anything, she would just fart.
Right.
And she would open a cupboard and she would just let a gust of wind out.
Sounds good. I'd like to see that. Yeah, maybe. I don't think Sorry I've Got No Head invented the fart joke, but maybe it's. I don't think Sorry I've Got No Head invented the fart joke, but maybe it brought it to CBBC audiences. Maybe it made it allowable there. I don't know.
It might have been an area of taboo.
Mm.
And then we just let it happen every time you say blueberry. I was even telling someone yesterday at college, because they're way older than me, because they're a teacher, and I was telling them about it, and they just walked off really confused why I went, yeah, there was a woman on it that every time she said blueberry, she farted. And when you mentioned Ismail Gedroych, they were even more confused.
Right. Yeah.
So you've confused generations there. And yeah, so Sorry I Got No Head was a fantastic program, and if you haven't seen it, it is on the iPlayer. I recommend you watch it. If you haven't seen The Revolting World of Stanley Brown, that's on YouTube. Watch it, and hopefully we could have a Sorry Got No Head reunion, where instead of having just a fart joke, we could also have explosive diarrhea. We could,
sure.
expand it.
Yeah.
So the poo particles.
Sure. Yeah. Do all the
All the poo related things.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with your career being ever growing, and possibly you might be in the same zone as Spencer Jones, where you have a successful program if Martin Fishback gets a full series, and then you'll end up being as famous as Spencer Jones with his The Mind of Herbert Clonkerdunk. What's
Right.
your next step in your career? Where do you want to see your career in the next year, 2 years, or a million years?
Oh, Tom, I mean, I'm at the mercy of this fickle beast they call show business. I'm, control what you can control, Tom. I mean, I would love to continue to I'd love to make more Martin Fishback. I'd love to do more Detective Roger Le Carre.
Yeah.
I'd love to appear in other people's funny shows. I'd just like to keep working, really. That would genuinely, that would be nice.
And then if Martin Fishback, this is like a very much if Martin Fishback never gets picked up for a full series.
Sorry, what?
If it doesn't, is there a possibility that we could see you making your own YouTube series of Martin Fishback?
You never know, but I mean that would be a very different thing, wouldn't it? Because the thing I want to make it costs quite a lot of money because you want to make it look good and have proper actors and stuff. But that doesn't mean people can't make funny things on YouTube. There's Twitch as well now, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of the youngsters are on Twitch.
Yeah, they're all Twitchers.
I could do a bit of Twitch.
Yeah. And I think in the next 10 years, Martin Fishback could be the new Alan Partridge.
Well, that's frightening. Yeah, I think I'm going to set my sights a little lower than that because I mean that's sort of the best British comedy character ever, probably. So yeah.
Yeah, and
for the series.
Yeah, and so if people want to support Martin Fishback in all the endeavours, buy the book for one, and then go to the iPlayer and watch the thing. I don't know if you watch it 4 million times, that will help. I don't know that much detail.
It can't hurt. Can't hurt, can it?
No, you could. The only thing that you'll ever lose is your social life because you'll be spending every day watching the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and who needs a social life?
Who does? Not in this mode. So, with all your history of appearing in children's programming, if you had to bring one children's show back from your childhood, where they brought it back and they said, "Oh, we want someone that's had experience in children's programming," what would you bring back, and how would you bring it back? Because you're writing the thing and you're also producing it. You are the head honcho of this.
Well, I did love, like I say, I mentioned it before, I did love Maid Marian. This was a show made by Tony Robinson, who played Baldric in Blackadder, if you're familiar with that. So that looked like it was a fun show to be in. So I would have liked to have been in that show. What would I do to make it different? I don't know if I've got an answer for you, Tom. What would I do to make from my memory, it was perfect. It might be awful. Do you know what I mean? I haven't seen it since I was like 9.
Oh, it is amazing. It's on BritBox.
Is it? You've watched it as well?
All 4 series are on BritBox, and Tony Robinson is planning to bring it back to Netflix. He's in talks to making a Netflix original.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe I can be in that then. Yeah, and then I would like to have been in The Muppets or Sesame Street, something like that.
Well, that's famous for having British people in it now. Warwick Bindle-Pike, best known as Dodge D Dog from the British television era, is now Gonga in Sesame Street.
Is he?
Oh. Yeah. Gonga is another chef that works with Cookie Monster.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So there's ever possibility.
It's a can't rule it out.
All all you need to do is get your own Apple TV Plus original, like Nick Mohammed and like Brett Goldstein, and because Brett Goldstein appeared in Sesame Street. So
No, he did.
so the winning formula is
Hmm.
Apple TV Plus original, a sitcom that's based around British people, and Americans that have no clue what's going on, and
Yeah.
then you're in Sesame Street and the Muppets easily.
Well, I'll get that done this afternoon. I'll get that done. Sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, because the bloke that plays Staff in Staff Let's Flat, which you
Yeah.
also paid him, which we'll get onto in a second.
Right.
He was in an Apple TV Plus program called After Party, which was very fun.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
It's
But
very
Jamie
funny.
Dimitri, yeah.
Yeah. And what was it like peering in Staff Let's Flat? Because that's like a mockumentary-esque program.
That was a lot of fun. Again, that was only one day filming for me. Jamie Dimitri, who plays Staff, I knew him, and he was in an episode of Off the Record, I think I did with David Hasselhoff. He was a guest star in that, and I did quite a few scenes with him on that. And he was very, very funny in that show. And we improvised a lot of stuff together, and I remember laughing a lot. So I was very happy when I got asked to do a small role in Stuff Let's Fats, and I was in pretty much the first scene of the first episode of that, and that was filmed on the first day of filming, and it was just basically Jamie. I remember being a little affronted that I was playing the father of a teenage girl, and I was like, oh, am I old enough to play that now? Okay, right. And they put a bit of grey in my hair, and then it was basically Jamie, if you've not seen it, obviously plays an estate agent, and it was just him showing me and my daughter around a house, and he was when we were filming it, he was just improvising a lot of stuff, and it was very, very funny. And if you go back and watch that, I think there's one of the bits in that when we're in the kitchen and he says something and my back is to camera, and if you look at my shoulders you can see me laughing.
Yeah, and is it a mockumentary, or am I making that up?
What, Stuff Let's Flats?
Yeah.
I would say not. No, it's a sitcom.
All right, because some scenes feel like it's filmed like a mockumentary. Some scenes, like when he does all the house touring.
Yes, I suppose in the style that it's filmed, but I wouldn't call it a mockumentary. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so your career is endless, and no matter how big or small your cameos are, we'll always be excited to see you on our screen. So because we're coming down to the end of the interview, I'm gonna ask some important questions, and then we'll move on to plug. Let's make this sound better. Plugging alley, which is an alleyway full of electrical sockets.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't expect that to happen, but I laughed at my own joke there. That's really sad. So, with your history of appearing in Sorry I've Got No Head, would you ever like see a possibility of doing a Dick and Dom in the bungalow and taking on tour to a live show?
I think the time has passed for a Sorry I've Got No Head live show, if I'm honest. I think that's unlikely to happen. And of course, all the people in that we're all doing different things now. And the audience are all grown up. And if we're honest, Sorry I've Got No Head, it's so nice that it's remembered fondly by lots of people, but I think it always sort of lived in the shadow of horrible histories. So if I'm absolutely honest, I don't think the finances on the tour would work out, but that it doesn't mean to say that it wouldn't be fun in an imaginary world.
Well, the positives of being in the shadow of horrible history meant that they didn't have to keep the show running and then replace you all, because that's what they did with horrible histories. It's now a brand new cast, and then they did a film with no one that was ever in the original TV series. Lee Mack
Right.
film, and so they ruined Horrible series after series 5.
Did
And
they?
so, luckily enough, sorry, I got the head ended perfectly. And the final question,
Mm.
and all questions before we go into that famous blogging alley. What advice would you give anyone who wants to be an actor but doesn't want to go to drama school? What advice would you give them, and what advice? What's the advice you would put out there?
Right. Is this yourself, Tom? Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say it bluntly. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. There's no reason that you have to go to drama school. Would you like to go to university?
Yeah.
Well, I would say do whatever you want to do at university, and some universities, there are lots of people I know in acting, particularly in comedy, who didn't go to drama school. Most universities, I would imagine. Do you know what university you're going to go to yet?
No.
No. I would imagine that most universities have a sort of like drama club. So it'd be nice to keep your oar in with that. And if it's comedy that you want to get into, which is a much easier way of being proactive, because you see, it's difficult with if you're just being an actor, you're at the mercy of, it's like, if you don't go to drama school, then how do you get a part in anything? How do you get an agent? It's kind of tricky. Do you know what I mean? Except unless, some people at Cambridge University, if you were to go there, then I think lots of people end up in acting through that. But most universities, agents aren't going to be looking for actors from people who don't go to drama school. But with comedy, the great thing about that is you can do it yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just keep on, wherever you end up, just if you make comedy, then that's a way of getting noticed, and then eventually it's handy to have an agent.
Yeah.
But you can do that through comedy, I'd say. And
that's a wonderful way to end. And I just had a notification on my phone. Hopefully this joke goes well. Saying that from the success of the Martin Fishback, I got that right. From the success of the Martin Fishback Twitter account, Albert Philpott, the favourite failed actor, is creating his own Twitter account. Link won't be in the description, because why would you want to read it anyway? But if you want to find out why Albert Philpott has created his own Twitter account, go and find out on Twitter. Not here, go and find out somewhere else. But there you go. So
is your own? Was that you plugging a Twitter account that you've set up?
Yes. So for viewers that don't watch Tom's Comedy Club, because I wouldn't blame you, there is a comedy character that I created called Albert Flowerpot, and last summer I did a sitcom called The Misadventures of Albert Flowerpot, where his life isn't going well because he's been kicked off TV, and he does anything in his rights to get back on the telly.
Right. Yeah. Good premise. Yeah.
And so the second series should be coming out this summer, where we'll see the character now have his own documentary, and he's now writing a book because he thinks that might help him to get on to the reboot of Jackanory / Crackanori, which was a Dave sort of like late night version of Jackanory. Now, for people that want to see more of your stuff, where can they find you? Where can they hear you? Where can they discover your awesomeness?
Oh, well, you can follow me on Twitter at Fergus Craig, Instagram at Dr. Fergus Craig. I put out, I'm not a doctor, by the way, I don't know why I did that. I put all my videos out on Twitter and Instagram. And like you say, you've done plenty of great plugging for me already. But yes, there's the book, Once Upon a Crime by Fergus Craig. Yeah, it's a fun book. I think it's worth it. Lots of good quotes there. audiobook. And then Martin Fishback is on iPlayer.
There you go. And if you can't get enough of hearing him talking about his past and his career as a whole, and if you want to hear more from other guests I've had interviewing, so David Cohen, who I interviewed last year, hosts the amazing podcast As I Go Really White, hosts the amazing podcast Sitcom Geeks, and Fergus Craig was a wonderful guest on the show. So if you want to hear more from Fergus Craig and more from David Cohen, well, go and check that out as well, because it's well worth a listen. It's well worth a tickle in your ear.
Thanks, Tom.
And so we end it there. Next time, our next interviewee, well, who knows? Who knows who it might be? Because no one ever knows, because someone could reply to my message that I sent in February. Who knows? But only time will tell.
Who hasn't replied? Who did you send a message to in February and they haven't replied?
Well, I sent a message to the people that run a podcast called Escape This Podcast in February, and then they replied to me like the other week.
All right. Well,
and so it does work, but
yeah.
you have to have patience. So hopefully Spencer Jones will reply to me. Anyway, less than my groveling. Anyway, so all I'll say is keep the 10th or the 11th of May open in your diaries, and then you'll be able to see what I get up to next. If you want to hear more from me on a daily basis, the copyright tester has been changed to the YouTube version of Tom's Fact of the Day, which is basically I run a radio show on my college radio, and the radio version of Tom's Fact of the Day has been converted to YouTube. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you very soon, or I might be talking about Hellraisers. I might be talking about the remake of whatever else is going to be remaked, Inside Number 9. Who knows? But thank you for Fergus Craig for letting me interview you. And remember, no, I've forgotten.